Welcome to another episode of Experience Andy Wines Live. And today is Tuesday, and yet it's the Tuesday after Labor Day, so we are having meaningful Mondays on a Tuesday. That's what we're doing every week. I do all the meaningful things in my life on Mondays to start off my week. So it's Meaningful Mondays, and I have future-focused Fridays. I've talked about life hacks before. That's what I've come up with. I used to say Mondays are for meetings or Mondays were for the mundane, and yet it's now Meaningful Mondays so I can have future-focused Fridays. Let's kick things off this week. As always, we're going to start with a moment of gratitude. This week's moment of gratitude is also going to be the feature of the show. My friend Kelly I met a few months ago at a networking event, and since then, we've become fast friends. So we've had the opportunity to connect at a networking event. I saw her a couple weeks ago at the Milwaukee Athletic Club. We were both working. She came up and she was very apprehensive at first and wanted to talk to me about what she learned from our conversation and what she learned from the book and how much she loves and supports the podcast. So I want to focus on her and make it all about the gratitude towards her. She came up with a little remorse at first, if you will, to take away some time. And yet that was the best 5 minutes I had of those 2 hours at that Milwaukee Athletic Club. To know that I matter, to know that I have an impact on somebody else's life. That gets me from that social acceptance to that a hierarchy of needs of self-actualization. I matter, as Maslow will talk about this. So I want to thank my friend Kelly for being a huge supporter of mine, supporter of the show, and now a contributor to the show as she's making an appearance here later on in the episode, talking, or she's not making an appearance, her story will make an appearance here. All right, next thing, we gotta pay the bills, if you will. So plug something. Coming up, October 4th, Podcast Town is doing a live podcasting event right here in the Majestic Theater in Waukesha, Wisconsin. There's going to be 8 podcasters from 9 to 5 putting on 1-hour shows. I've been selected as one of the 8, and I'm kicking things off. So 9 a.m., I'm going to do my first ever in-person Andy Wines Live with a guest. We're going to jam for an hour about the power of your mindset and also your physical being and how the mindset and physical being will get you where you want to be in life. So if you're here in the Milwaukee, or when you're here in the Milwaukee area, full day event coming together. Recently, I found out I was in the top 10 podcasters in the world based on some data. So that's kind of dope. That's cool. Other people there are going to be also some top podcasters here in the area. We're all going to come together and have different ideas share. So that's the event I want to share and plug for this week. All right, let's get to the heart of the matter. Here's the fact. There are Chads in this world that want to destroy your life, right? There's an old fable, the donkey, right? Don't argue with donkeys. And so the fable goes something to the effect of, there's a lion and a donkey. And the lion is there, or lion or tiger. I actually have it up. I can't remember. Okay, it is a tiger. The lion's the judge, if you will. All right, so there's a tiger and a donkey. The donkey says, the grass is blue. And the tiger says, no, the grass is green. And they're debating. They take the matter up to the high council. They take the matter up to the lion, who's the king of the jungle, which is weird because lions live in the savannah and tigers are in the jungle. I digress. Anyways, so they have this argument in front of the lion. And the lion says, okay, donkey. And tiger, you're right, tiger. The grass is not in fact blue. It's in fact green. And because you are right, you are sentenced to 5 years of solitude, 5 years of silence, 5 years where you're not allowed to talk to anybody. And the tiger rebutted, but why am I now subject to 5 years of not talking when the donkey was wrong? And he said, because you wasted your time arguing with the donkey. You wasted your time. You wasted the time of this council. You wasted my time bringing forth this information. And so now you have 5 years to remember and to learn that not everybody's argument is worth your time. This goes back to what I talked about a few minutes ago with my friend Kelly. 3 or 4 months back, I went to a networking event. Now it's a business after 5 at a brewery, right? So now it's an alcohol-infused event. I generally avoid events that involve alcohol, and I have for years, even when I did drink, because I'm not at networking events to make friends. I'm there to do business. I'm there to build relationships, have transcending conversations, not transactional. I'm not there to make friends. I'm not there to hit on women. I'm not there to bullshit. I'm there to develop deep relationships. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of networking events that when alcohol is involved, it's after 5. It brings out the worst in people. And moreover, the worst in men. And I'm very conscious of how women play a role in networking now. I have a young daughter and I have a mother, and I'm very conscious to see how people treat each other. And so I'm at this networking event. It's outdoor, nice event, half a dozen or so people when I get there, 6, 8 people. And I get up and I get my water. I don't drink. And I sat down. I met Kelly's a young professional woman. kids, husband, the whole 9 yards, and we got chatting. And I found out about kids and husband not because I did the, hey, how are you? Because we got talking about real things. And she started telling me about her real life and her real struggles. I, to this day, have no idea what Kelly does for a living. I know she works or she works from home, or she works at the MAC, the Milwaukee Athletic Club. And her company is, I think, in Minnesota, right? Because it wasn't transactional. I learned about her husband and her kids and the struggle she has being a professional woman. We talked at length. We dug in and had a great conversation. At some point in the conversation, another woman who was there, who's a fellow Titan 100 of mine, we both won Titan 100, she started talking to Kelly about me. And the three of us are having this amazing conversation. She brought up, oh, Andy wrote this book. You should read it. It's a great book. I've read the book. And Kelly's like, I want a copy of the book. I said, all right, let me go get you a copy of the book. So at a natural break in the conversation, I went to my Jeep. I got a couple copies of the book. I brought them here. I signed them. I gave them to Kelly and a few other people. And as we're having this great conversation, learning about each other, transcending this relationship, the Chad showed up. And conveniently, his name is Chad. And Chad came in and said, oh, Kelly, Andy, come on, Andy, enough of your stories, enough of your jokes. Kelly, can I save you from this guy? I know he goes on and on, he keeps talking, and we all know who Andy is. And Chad projected his insecurities onto me. I felt extremely disrespected. Who the fuck are you to question us having a conversation? We're enjoying the conversation. You weren't there to see how the conversation transpired. You weren't there when we broke through some barriers. We broke some walls. We had common language because we both follow the entrepreneurial operating system. You weren't there to hear about how much we had in common, how it's like to, or what it's like to raise children and also be professional and find that alignment. He came in and projected his insecurities onto us. He tried to take away that moment from us. And I often will look at people like that. And I looked at them as closed-minded, narrow-minded, small-minded individuals. They couldn't even be bothered seeing the greatness that was around them. And I found out later, as I saw a speaker a few weeks after that, Chad's not small-minded or narrow-minded or close-minded. Right? Those have negative connotation. He's fixed-minded. He operates in this place where this is the way it should be. And should is a shit word. People should show up to networking events. They should wear their bullshit fucking blue blazer or their bullshit fucking polo. They should only talk about surfacey shit. They should push business cards. They should remain transactional. Because for 20 plus years, that's how he has operated. And it's been successful for him in his own way. And yet, I'm not fixed-minded like that. I have a growth mindset. Kelly has a growth mindset. She was willing to hear what I had to say. She wanted to know more. She wasn't sitting there complaining. She was asking, how do I align this life that I have? I got a great career. I have a great husband. I have these great kids. What do I do when the kids are sick? That was one of the problems we navigated together. Does she stop her career for that day? Right? Does her husband, right? She works from home. He works from home. Does he take care of the kids? Do they pay for a nanny? Does she just put it out of office on her email for 2 hours so she can take care of the kids while the husband is finishing up a project? We navigated all these different scenarios because we know there's greatness. We have a growth mindset. We saw this opportunity. So how she can become this professional woman. And yet the Chads of the world projected their insecurity onto us. In that moment, the donkey wanted to talk over the tiger. This is because 80% of people operate somewhere between fear and anger. I recently read the book 10x is easier than 2x. And it talks about Dr. Hopkins' research as shame on a scale of 0 to 600 points for all different emotions you can operate under. Shame is 20. Fear is 100. Anger is 150. And the argument is 80% of people operate somewhere between fear and anger. Courage is 200. In that moment, Kelly operated at 200. She was willing to share one of her challenges within her life. She was willing to be vulnerable with a random person she had met at a networking event. And in that moment, I stepped forward and operated out of acceptance and love and abundance of knowledge. I gave her a copy of my book. I said, look, here's the answers. I have them right down. Let's figure out this alignment thing because balance is a bullshit word. Let's talk about alignment. How do we come together? And since then, Kelly and I connected on LinkedIn. Kelly connected me with other people in her group. She connected me with her boss via LinkedIn. We've exchanged messages back and forth. And 2 weeks ago, when I'm sitting there at the Milwaukee Athletic Club having a meeting, she took time out of her day to thank me for putting on my podcast. She took time out of her day to thank me for the lessons learned. Chad tried to rob us of that moment. Those 5 minutes when she came up to me, apprehensive and apologetic that she was taking of my time, filled my cup. That moment was almost lost. We almost let the donkey win. And this happens every day in our lives. Every day we encounter people with fixed mindsets. They prevent us from being who we are. And in today's world of filters and fake news, authenticity is the currency that we can live with. Les Brown, my favorite speaker of all time, the person that motivates me intrinsically all day, every day, fills me up, right? Talks about the greatness within you. Dan Sullivan calls it your unique ability. Mark Twain talks about the two most important days, the day that you were born and the day that you figure out why. And when you lead with this authenticity, when you lead with your growth mindset, when you show up as you are, prepared to be vulnerable and take on the world, the Chads disappear. The donkeys have no say. You get the opportunity to walk into the arena naked. Because up in the cheap seats, you can't hear Chad's voice. We all have Chads in our lives. I've had family members, friends, business associates consistently tell me what I can't do, what I'm not able to do, what I shouldn't do. And yet, these are all shit words that they use to project their insecurities onto me. And for the longest time, I fought them. Let me tell you why I can do this. Let me tell you why you're wrong. Let me project my ego, my defensive mechanisms on you. And now that I've learned to accept people, I no longer take the time to understand or appreciate or even acknowledge them. I accept them. I accept that 80% of this world are going to operate out of fear or anger. 80% of this people in this world are going to be fixed mindset people. 80% of people are going to project their insecurities near me. What a gift. All I need to do is hold my line. I'm in the top 20%. What an amazing opportunity that is for my daughter. When I can tell my daughter with a growth mindset, you're already better off than 80% of the people in this world. Let's fucking go. And yet, there's a small piece of me and a small piece of you and a small piece of all of us that give those fear-based individuals a little bit of our time, a little bit of our energy, a little bit of what we bring to the table. And we have a unique ability to bring forward to the world. We are great. Les Brown says there is greatness within you. Everybody has greatness within you. There are 8 billion yous in this world, and you get to be you. The other people do not have a vote. This is your opportunity today and this week. As you find yourself with these fixed mindset individuals, accept them for who they are. Love them for who they are. Respect their perspective. And then beat your fucking feet. Find a new place to be. You cannot change the people around you. You can, in fact, change the people you are around. Listen to what they say. When they start saying things like, you can't, you shouldn't, you should, you oughta, why don't you? If I was you, I would do this. What's funny about that is I got that from Kelly over the weekend, in our conversation a few weeks back. At the Mac, I told Kelly, the reason I was meeting at the Mac, I was meeting with Blake and I are writing another book called Phrases Fucking Matter. Kelly texted me this weekend. And she's, you know what's a shit phrase that I don't like that people keep saying is, you should do this. You need to do that. They're making recommendations and suggestions when they have no fucking clue where I stand here today. And so now Kelly went from a consumer listening to what I had to say to a contributor by telling me more about what I'm doing and what we can do together to now a creator. She created her own phrase, her own shit phrase that needs to go away. Because at no point did Kelly and I allow the Chads to win. At no point did we decide, okay, I ought to put a fucking artificial ceiling on myself. I ought to have a fixed mindset. I ought to listen to people in the fucking cheap seats. No. Kelly and I stayed true to ourselves. We had an opportunity to run parallel lives. We intersected a few times, organically and intentionally. And what a beautiful intersection that was. We got to meet. We got to solve problems. We got to share ideals. And now we have a relationship on LinkedIn where we can share ideas about the way life is and the way life can be. It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. There are people that are going to live parallel lives with you. You have a choice. Do you intersect with them organically and intentionally? Do you stay your fucking course and let them veer off? Let them veer off. They're on their own journey. As I talk about the Chads and the donkeys of the world, I do not hate them. I don't loathe them. They exist. The math says 80% of people are them. I accept them. And I look at the gift that I have. All I have to do is show up and be me. That is the simplest currency there is. And I ask you to do the same. There is greatness within you. I'm going to keep saying that because 6 minutes and 36 seconds of my life, Les Brown Goalcast video on YouTube changed my life when he said, Andy, there is greatness within you. People's opinions of you does not have to be your perspective of the world. When he said that, he was talking to me, and in the video, he talks about Mr. Washington, the teacher that gave him a chance and was talking to him. So now one conversation that happened 50 years ago is impacting me, impacting you today, because we are choosing to lean into our unique abilities. I ask you now, what are your unique abilities? What are you going to do this week? How are you going to show up? And those three questions sound very similar to the way I live my life. Do the fucking thing. Take the time to self-reflect, to be self-aware, to finally self-regulate and do you. Be the version of yourself that you want to be. When you figure that out, go and tell the fucking world. Let them know. I am, therefore I matter. And then show up. And when you show up, and when the Chads of the world show up, the donkeys with a fixed mindset, do that magical thing I always talk about. Shut the fuck up. Let them have their fixed mindset. Do not waste the time of the lion. Move on with your life. Live the life you're going to live. Do not force yourself to cross paths with those individuals that are not on the same path of righteousness that you are on. This week and always, I appreciate you. I thank you for your time. Do the fucking thing. Tell the fucking world and show the fuck up. I'll see you next week.